From AI sentience to colonizing Mars, we're getting futuristic today as we dive into the top 10 dark predictions for the future shared on Reddit. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have 2060. This is a Reddit response that came from a user called Pity Pity Bum. And they were responding to a question posted that asked, quote, "What are your guys' predictions for the future of the world in the 2060s to 2070s? This user decided to share their opinion and say, quote, "It will be pretty much the same but with climatic crisis, water problem, AI problems, unemployment problems, and energy problems. To solve all of these global problems, we will have probably something like strong world government, EU but in world scale. Big corporations' problem will be solved by this time, I hope." Alright, there's definitely a lot going on there, a lot of crisis happening. Some of those latter predictions aren't totally terrible, but it's definitely quite a jump from where we're at now. I guess like anything on this list, only time will tell. In our number 9 spot today, we have the grim future. So this is a response or prediction from a user named Bob Quasit. Bob's got a lot of ideas about where we're headed in the next 50 years or so, but to start off with, he claims that, quote, "Humanity is well on the way to extinction by the 2060s. Alright Bob, hot start, things are looking grim. He goes on to say that, quote, "Western countries, in particular the United States, are well along in the process of losing basic infrastructure. Electricity, clean water, and internet access are only intermittently available at best for all but the areas designated by the US military as, quote, smart cities." While many people anticipate our world only getting more technological, it seems like Bob has the opposite in mind. He definitely envisions a more apocalyptic feel for the next 50 years, it seems. In our number 8 spot today, we have colonies. So Bob, from before, had so many predictions in one Reddit post that we had to break it down into 2 points. Near the end of his few paragraph prediction, he wrote about how he believes that pandemics will continue to sweep through our world in the coming years, and this, coupled with, quote, "increasingly violent weather on a scale currently unimaginable, deaths in the billions occur." Alright, well, I'm glad Bob seems like a glass half full kind of guy. He goes on to say, quote, "Some of the elite may or may not have attempted to escape to orbital habitats or colonies on the moon or Mars. These attempts are not successful. Even if colonies are successfully established, they lack sufficient biodiversity and technological skill to survive more than a few decades at most. The same issue applies to underground bunkers. The elite believe that they are technologically capable of self-preservation and do not require a living planet to survive, but they are incorrect. They end up devouring each other in the dark underground. The human race becomes extinct within 100 to 200 years from this point." Listen, can someone check up on Bob to see how he's doing? Because I'm feeling a little worried after that prediction. There are some definitely interesting points in here that you may or may not agree with, but anything is possible when it comes to the future. In our number 7 spot today, we have 3 outcomes. For Reddit user Sonic the Sith, they see 3 potential futures that they think will occur by 2060. They wrote, 1. We have nuked the planet and no human life exists anymore. 2. Some religious cult took power in the US and the world is close to being destroyed by them. 3. We are on the way to fulfill the prophecy depicted in the movie Idiocracy, with some smart people escaping to the moon and Mars. It definitely seems to be a theme that people think we are going to be moving off planet, or at least attempting to within some of our lifetimes, but it's quite interesting that many of these predictions don't involve everyone. Of course, space exploration is something that is getting more attention now than ever, with more private companies helping to expand our knowledge of the universe. James Webb is out there showing us the furthest views we've ever had, so maybe these predictions are more accurate than we even know. In our number 6 spot today, we have insane times. This Reddit post comes from someone who has since deleted their account, but they originally posted it to the Futurology thread and they wanted to start a discussion. Their headline reads, quote, "The next 40 to 50 years will be insanity." They then go on to pose the question, quote, "Does anybody else feel this way? Think about the major issues we're facing: climate change, unprecedented growth in technology, worsening wealth inequality, global authoritarian resurgence, plastic pollution, etc." They go on to explain their thoughts a bit more, saying, quote, "I know we live in the most prosperous and peaceful time in human history, but doesn't it seem that we are trending toward a future that we are wildly unprepared for? A future of unprecedented change and turbulence. I'm not saying it will be the end of the world or that we are all doomed, but it certainly seems that we are entering an era era that will be unlike anything humanity has ever experienced. It's definitely quite an interesting question, and by the edits added afterwards, it seems to have been one that they got a lot of responses to. They conclude their last edit by saying, quote, "A lot of people seem to think that we will survive the next 50 years just because we've survived every turbulent period of change so far. To this I say two things. One, past performance does not guarantee future returns, and two, the challenges we face are not necessarily insurmountable, but they will be extremely difficult to overcome and maintain our civilization, but I think we can do it." Hey, at least someone on this list has a positive, although not ideal, outlook for the future. In our number 5 spot today, we have AI growth. So rather than one specific prediction, this is just like a common one that I saw on a ton of Reddit threads that I looked at, and it has to do with AI. It appears that many people believe AI is only going to continue getting better, more realistic, and more helpful, but people also believe that this is going to lead to a much higher unemployment rate. People believe that in the near future, AI technology is going to begin taking over even more jobs than what we've seen in the past. As an example, self-driving cars. It is said that this new piece of technology will soon put 5 million Americans out of jobs. That's a lot. I mean, if taxi companies or Uber can somehow find a way to remove the middleman, you know they would in order to rake in more cash for themselves. This issue isn't just with this, however. It is said that by 2030, nearly 70 million people could lose their jobs due to automation. Is it efficient? Yes. Is it potentially very harmful? Also yes. In our number 4 spot today, we have the 10-year prediction. This prediction comes from the Reddit user Kanta Bain, and they had some thoughts about the next 10 years because, by their own words, quote, "If history taught us anything, is that predictions of the future more than that are usually not accurate at all." They do start off with some positive predictions that includes renewable energy sources, medical and technological advancements, space tourism, some cool, good things, but then they get into the bad. They predict things like, quote, "Ads are much more intrusive and annoying, everyone is trying to sell you a suit you don't need, nothing can be trusted, people spread fake news and call the truth fake news, the government is either evil and or dumb and brainwash dumb people like they do now, but it's much worse, dumb people still keep electing dumb people, democracy starts sounding like a joke, privacy is a joke, VPNs are lobbied out and now banned in most countries." That's a lot. There's a lot going on there. Well, these are definitely some darker predictions. They aren't completely out there and wild. Some of these are clearly made with a negative impression of what our current world is like, but some might just call that being realistic. In our number 3 spot today, we have negative finances. Carrying on from Kanta Bain's predictions, they also had some negative financial predictions for the next 10 years as well. They wrote, quote, "A recession hits, home and education loan taken during the time for the same amount of education and space today will probably take a person to repay till they turn 70 on average. The gap between the rich and poor widen." They then finish on some environmental predictions, saying, quote, "Global warming has still caused a lot of biodiversity to fade away, the summers are hotter and the winters still the same, some island somewhere will sink. I mean, a lot of bad things happening now will probably happen again, but worse, just like it has been happening from the past. I mean, it's safe to say that if we continue on the path we're on right now, some of those financial predictions might be pretty accurate. As far as the environmental ones, there are a ton of talk among experts that suggests many islands are nearing the point of being submerged in water, but it doesn't just stop at islands either. Some coastal cities might be at risk within the next 50 years as well." In our number 2 spot today, we have the future timeline. On a lot of Reddit threads, one thing I saw being posted a lot was one website that people wanted to share. The website was futuretimeline.net, and when I clicked on it, it brought me to a site that doesn't just have predictions for the next 50 or 100 years. No, this website has predictions for the next million. This entire website is quite the trip, and it doesn't just include predictions for humans and humanity, but also for space, our galaxy, and our universe. In the 22nd century, they predict things like space colonization, AI becoming sentient, and quantum physics has incredible breakthroughs, giving us insight into fields we didn't even know existed previously. Predictions for 1 million AD include things like continents colliding, Saturn's rings fading away, the Oort cloud being disturbed, basically just a totally different world and environment, but that makes a lot of sense. It's a pretty interesting website that has so much information on it and some pretty crazy predictions of the future. In our number 1 spot today, we have space travel. This post comes from a user who goes by Ignolan, and the heading reads, quote, "How I predict predict the future will look 2020 to 2045. Obviously, this prediction was made before 2020, so we are currently living in the midst of the time this person was predicting, which is kinda cool. The part of their prediction I really wanted to talk about is in reference to space exploration though. They wrote, quote, "The solar system is entirely inhabited but mostly by robots. Because minds are now digital, we can travel simply through light-speed data transmission into a computer or robotic body on another world. At this point we are a hive mind and can have the sensory input from any other connected mind streamed to our own brains. Our species as a whole becomes self-aware. Interstellar travel is possible through one of two methods. If faster than light travel is possible, we may use wormholes or the warping of space-time to travel to distant suns. If not, nanoscale craft can be accelerated to the speed of light with little energy. Once at their distant destination, they begin using the materials available to replicate themselves and form the necessary technological apparatuses for minds to be transferred." I'm sorry, what? That is absolutely insane, but apparently this person is not the only one who thinks that this is where our future is heading, so I have to ask, who else sees this sort of thing coming true? Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye!